Hello, and welcome to episode 13 of Creative Collaboration Conversations with Veronica and Jillian. And I am Jillian.
And I'm Veronica. And welcome to, episode 13. For me, it's a lucky number, but a lot of cultures actually consider it a bad one. But I'm happy to have this and to celebrate it. And today, actually, we are talking about it's not really a proper topic, but what we're going to do, we're going to have Jillian in the hot seat. So I don't know if you guys remembered, but a couple of episodes ago, I was in the hot seat, and we were putting a magnifying glass over my business, more precisely over the ONS, the online networking with a spin, not the one night stand.
Very important delineation.
Very important.
Note to self, when you use acronyms, clarify what they stand for now and again. So That's a great takeaway. Yeah.
But today I'm so happy that we're going to do that with Jillian. So how do you feel? Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. I feel like, full disclosure, I'm 1,000% more familiar and comfortable with the shoe on the other foot. But me being on the hot seat is like, yeah, it's a necessary evil, because then it gives you the opportunity to sit in that seat. So it's reciprocity here, right?
Let me tell you, wasn't a comfortable position, but was very eye-opening, actually, because you don't realize a couple of things. And, we are so used to be the ones advising or seeing, hey, this is the small button that you need to turn 30 degrees to the right to make the machine work.
Yeah.
But, you do need to be in the hot seat, and I hope I'll be able to do such a great job as you did, because it will provide clarity, at least,
that's what I'm hoping for,
or just new position from a new perspective, new ideas to start playing with.
Yeah. So I think two things help me feel a little bit more kind of matter of fact, or perhaps comfortable actually having this conversation. The first is that I think about, every time we're going to record our episode, I always go back to the first time we met. I always mentally think about or imagine we're just sitting over coffee and just chatting, having a very casual and candid conversation that largely tends to focus on business. And I feel like that's really what this podcast is about. And it's just doing it in a public format and allowing other people to listen in or to interact with us. But I just think of this is very much a conversation that we would have over coffee. So that's one thing.
Yeah.
And the second thing is, it's not taking myself too seriously and realizing that I know a lot of people are in very similar situations as I am right now, in kind of looking at making a transition. And I know this because many people have reached out to me because of conversations we've had over the years, or because of some of my posts on LinkedIn over the past several months. I've been, sharing a bunch of ideas and perspectives and different types of content. So I've had a number of people reach out, folks that it's resonated with and are just looking to have conversations or get my input on different things. So so I feel like what I'm talking about and the position I'm in is not new, and it's not just me, even though sometimes it feels like that. So I'm hoping that other people that hear this, it resonates with, and it's either useful or practical now, or can be kind of filed away for a future reference. So those are my two kind of disclaimers, or saying them aloud to help remind myself why this is a good conversation to have. So
it is an uncomfortable one, but good one. And I do apologize. I do have a dog here that tends to bark.
Oh, perfect.
So I do apologize. Reality. That's the reality, actually. And
yeah, sure. No, it makes it more casual. It's just a real conversation, It's like
it is a real And I think that I'm happy you said that. And actually, I'm happy my dog barked. I said that because we do have real conversations here. This is real life, and we are very vulnerable here, and we are sharing
Mm.
a lot of insights that maybe some other business owners or marketeers or entrepreneurs will say, like, you are crazy that you're doing it, or maybe they will say we are crazy, we are collaborating, creating this
Yep,
instead of
yep,
focusing on
yep,
competing.
yep.
But it's not in line with our values, and it's, yes, that's the reality. And at least for me, and I'm pretty sure it's for you as well, you are not the only one, like the listener, you're not the only one going through
Mm,
this. We are all going through
mm,
these moments,
mm-hmm,
and it's
mm-hmm,
normal. And this is a way of growing, actually, because
mm.
if everything will be pink and nice and flowers and butterflies, like, how do you know you're evolving? How can
Yeah,
you learn? So
right.
let's see. So shall we kick it off?
Sure, we can jump in. So the kind of the conversation for today, yours was a lot more kind of focused and specific. Mine is a bit broader. But really where I'm at is, so my company is TJG. It's the Jillian group, right?
Mhm.
So right now, 1.0 is officially sunsetting. And now I'm kind of
Bittersweet.
wide-eyed. What's that?
A bittersweet moment.
Yeah, it is. And but I'm really kind of wide-eyed about the 2.0 version and what that looks like. So to just kind of try to lay out a little bit of context, and then I'll backfill here. So context. So I've been an entrepreneur for 25 years, but this kind of agency structure, I began in 2013. And so now we're wrapping up 2023. So that's like a 10-year, which is actually 11-year because I worked in 2013. So whatever. It's a decade plus of working with clients in this capacity. And so, yeah, there's a lot of lessons learned, a tremendous amount of experience and insights and, successes, and a big jackpot of failures as well, a lot. But for the purpose of this conversation, what I'm looking to do, so the reason that the TJG 1.0 is coming to is sunsetting, because I have mentioned this on previous episodes as well, that I had one client who has been with us for the 10 years, but I have known for a while that it was time to move on from them and them from me. Just got to that point. It's like, it's been great. It's not you, it's me. It's like time to break up, right? And so that conversation has now happened. So now we're in the transition phase and wrapping that up. And it's crazy because as soon as that conversation happened, I immediately felt like, oh shit, what did I just do? And then it's like that dissipated, and I felt like a giant relief, like, oh, finally, right? Because I've had the sense for some time that the work I was doing there was not, well, I knew that it was not fulfilling for me. It was not the highest and best use of my time. And it ultimately felt like I was treading water. It's just not in alignment with my kind of values anymore in the direction I want to focus and work in. So anyhow, that happened. So I think, so a couple things to just throw at you, and then I'm going to shut up and hear what you have to say. So as I look for the TJG 2.0, okay, a couple of things. So the 1.0 began as a marketing agency, but not because I planned to start a marketing agency, just because I started getting a lot of clients, and that seemed to be kind of what it was. So we just went with that. So not an orthodox, super structured build. It was 100% organic. And so we did that stuff. And then eventually incorporated the process piece. But most recently, you know the story, that I'm really more so interested in, yeah, sustainable business process, and B Corp certifications in, just, yeah, all facets of sustainability for a business. So anyhow, when I was building the first time around, yeah, so I'm looking at things like the markets, the US market, which is where I'm come from and have the bulk of my network, or the European market, which is where I live now. But I'm not as familiar with a lot of things here. But yeah, so there's that kind of option, and not to say it has to be one or the other, but it's two different approaches and etc. The other piece is about team. So with my 1.0, we grew, I think you know this, but we had at our peak 40 people on the team at once. And it was madness. Yeah, it was a lot to manage, especially because it wasn't planned. It just, we were onboarding 4 people a month at one point. It was pretty crazy. But my takeaway from that is I really enjoy having a team. So I would like to rebuild my team in a more deliberate fashion, but I do like a team. I'm much more motivated to help to grow and create opportunities for others aside from just myself. I like that. So there's a lot more, but I'll take a breath here and just hear your thoughts or any questions at this point, and then I can continue if there's space.
Sorry. I actually want to hear more because
Okay.
I feel you want to say more.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
just say everything.
Yeah.
Because I'm,
okay.
as you see, like, I don't know, for listeners, because we do have the YouTube, you don't see, but I'm taking notes here and I'm going to come back
Okay.
afterwards. I feel
right,
we are
perfect.
creating a puzzle at this point, and you're just
All right,
giving me
perfect.
some
So
of the
I'm
pieces.
just gonna chat. I'm gonna chat and interrupt me whenever, because
Yes.
I can like go off on tangents.
How
so
I
I'm
usually
just gonna
work. I usually work, the first part is like, you need to overwhelm me. You need to give me the situation, and you need to give me the framework. Where are you at this point, and what do you want? So
fair.
Keep on going.
Okay, so all right, so a few other things. Yeah, so some in no particular order, just some other points of reference, right? So another thing about how I have worked previously is we've had almost a majority a majority of our work in the first round was retainers, right? So I mentioned this client has been with us for 10 years. The average length of a contract with clients is about 3 years, like 39 months, right? So most clients stayed with us long term. Although when I started to realize that it wasn't fulfilling anymore and I knew I needed to recalibrate, I stopped extending contracts and letting them go. So I could have extended several more of them, but instead I actively looked for replacements for them so I could release myself from that. But in any case, so moving forward, I like that idea because I feel like the more you get to work with a client, the more relationship you can build and the more perspective you gain. But it's really so much about, the trust factor, being able to have time to germinate, right? But I also used to do a lot of projects as well. So I would like to get back into doing some projects, either individual, personal related stuff, or projects that my new team could help to facilitate, etc. So that idea is like short-term or long-term contracts or engagements. So I'm just thinking about that, which largely could be the cart before the horse, but nonetheless, it's a reference point anyway.
A quick question here, if I may. Projects, what do you mean, and what's the difference between projects and the normal work that you want to do or you are doing? It's a different service, or it's just the duration is shorter, or?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, oh boy, so how do I even explain that? Okay, so because some of what happened before, I'm okay with or keen to do again. But to try to answer your question specifically, so, okay. So it could be, so a standalone project could be just, doing like an audit kind of a thing, it could be something like that. Like, yeah, or it could be a project could be, it's not necessarily the same thing, but it could be like doing some workshops or something like that. So like a one-off thing. So the way I'm thinking about that moving forward is utilizing projects or one-offs as a way for clients, for companies to get to know me and how I work and get to know my team, and also for me to get to know them, to see, it's like using as like a vetting ground kind of
Like
thing.
a qualification
It,
if it's the
yeah,
long-term client.
yeah, right.
So
And if
actually,
it's
this
good,
could be
yeah,
used more as in the marketing funnel. So
yeah,
revenue brings revenue, but also
yeah,
dictates, does it go further in my marketing funnel to
yeah,
sell more or become a long-term client, or do we just
yeah,
drop them?
yeah, yeah. I think the it's like the $1 million question is how I want to reposition what I do. Um, because I think this is where I've been kind of going round and round. I think that, yeah, so like business 101, it's like, okay, what's your thing? What are you kind of selling? What's your offering? And is there a market for it? Right. And so straight away, when I think about all of the stuff, right, about having a sustainable company and sustainable business practices, and optimizing processes, including your talent acquisition, all of those things. um, I'm not, I guess, convinced, or maybe I have a bias. I'm not certain, I suppose, of the market opportunity there. And maybe it's because although my agency's 10, 11 years, I've been working with companies and business folks for 25 years, and predominantly in the US market. And I perhaps have this bias that companies are really focused on one thing. It's like, it's like, can you help me make more money? Like, it's
Certainly.
very,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's very kind of sad to me and a flat out turnoff, because it's such a missed. I feel like it's so business as usual and it's missing so much opportunity. It's not the way I think about business anymore. And I feel like marketing is the easiest thing to sell because most companies have a line item for it, and it's business as usual. It's what they know. We've always had it that way. Like, how much are we going to spend to try to get more business? And I perhaps need to just, I don't know, find a way to be comfortable with that mentality. But the way in which I would approach marketing, I suppose, is very different than, which is why I don't see myself as a marketing agency. Perhaps it's all of these things.
Maybe
Anyway, I'm like, feel like I'm going off the deep end, but I don't know if this makes sense, right?
makes sense. But let me ask you this. Forget about the business you had or the business you want to
Yeah,
do. Like,
yeah.
my question is, what will make you happy to do? What type of services you want to
Hmm.
offer now that will really make you happy and bring the best out of you, your creativity, your knowledge, everything that you learn until now, basically? What do you really want to do?
So yeah, so I think a couple things. All right. So I made a deliberate decision many years ago to work with small and medium-sized enterprises because I wanted to be able to work with the decision makers and the business owners. Um, and I felt like I perhaps had a bias. I felt like working with a larger company, it was just layers of bureaucracy and red tape, and nobody had the authority, and it was just, a cluster a bit. So I kind of avoided the larger clients, right? However,
Mhm.
now having this experience of 10 plus years working with small and medium sized enterprises, it has struck me how many business owners um, don't really want to, or just flat out are not managing their actual business and not leading their businesses. They are not not aware of things. They have this business that's grown, but they really just want to continue doing their craft. So
Yeah.
so I'm sharing that because it's like maybe it's still like an open wound. Oh, but it's also just it's the one of the first things that came to mind in attempt to answer your question, because I love to collaborate and I love to be able to to come up with ideas and talk about how to implement and to look at the data and to be able to talk through something, implement it, test it, etc. I love that iterative approach. I love, like healthy, like proactive collaboration. So that's the type of work I like to do. And it's frustrating because I've had, and kind of like the post-mortem with several clients, I feel like too many clients, I have been frustrated because I felt very sure that we could double their companies. But in order to double the company, their leadership would also have to evolve because they were, inhibiting the growth or innovation or any of that. Because leadership has to evolve. If your company's going to evolve, you have to develop your skill set and how to manage your team effectively. And so I feel
You
like
need to evolve from management to leadership.
yeah, and it just doesn't happen. And in my experience, I've seen a lot of them are not effectively managing really either. It's just business, just doing what they've always done. And so I feel like what I would like to do is work in the opposite type of situation is to really, to have that kind of very healthy collaborative situation. But I think, so to me, this opportunity is about so this idea of like business as usual, like conventional marketing stuff, we spend money to go get new customers. Like that's just what it is for every industry, right? For me, I see that most industries or in most, rather most companies that I've observed, and I'm pretty sure it's across sector, there's just so much waste happening in terms of, lead opportunities, in terms of talent, in terms of time. It's just there's a lot of bloat, a lot of inefficiencies happening. So to me, it's looking at business process through a lens of sustainability and impact. Really, is looking for how could we do things better or differently to streamline things. So I think overall, it's really about maximizing resources. And or to reduce waste, right?
Yeah,
so I
I
feel
can
like there's a
relate
lot
to that.
there.
I'm
It's just how it is.
yeah, that's
It's
actually the
like,
reason how I
yeah,
build my business as well. So I do understand.
yeah,
But
it's crazy. Like time, like sorry, like it's so the way that the average, like it's been striking to me, right? Because I've had thousands of probably of meetings over these, I don't know, we'll call 10 plus years. It is
Mhm.
so wild to me. Like I don't know how people mostly do meetings, because in 99.9% of meetings I've ever done, I'm the one that shows up with an agenda, like a written agenda, and I share it. It's like a collaborative agenda. Here it is. You can add to it. But people don't, I've not encountered people doing that. So I feel like, what do people do? How do they run meetings? And so I know because I was, in on several boards and a part of other nonprofits and whatnot, that classic show up at the meeting and some people are on time, some people aren't, and then we have some snacks or whatever, and then somebody says, okay, so what are we talking about today? Oh, what did we talk about last time? And then we rehash something, spend too much time on, it's like such a cluster and waste of time. Like that drives me berserk. So I feel like
Yeah,
that is something. But what is a company gonna like, oh yes, come pay me and I'll show you how to stop wasting your time? It's like, I don't know that there's enough perceived value for that in and of itself. But the same is true all the way through to lead opportunities. And this is the one that's like, as far as why I don't want to be perceived as a traditional marketing agency or anything anymore, because I feel like it's not fair. It's like, yeah, so you're hired as a marketing agency to create leads or create opportunities, whatever. But if they're not closing, if the client or company is not able to close those leads, then they can say, oh, you're not getting me enough leads, or they're not high enough quality, when in fact they have a sales process problem, or they're wildly inefficient with what they're doing, or they have a cost containment issue, or whatever the thing is. So to me, it's like, I don't want to be put in a position to be held responsible if I can't have a say in what's happening on the back end. So to take that one step further, and maybe this is me like flat out, disqualifying myself from working at all anymore. I don't know, but
No, I don't think so.
yeah. So I also think part of the challenge is, again, the business as usual, the traditional structure of things. And for example, we touched on it on episode, I think it was 6, about sales versus marketing, right? And so
yeah, that actually kept
so
on coming to my mind while you are speaking.
yeah, and I see that as a challenge. I think, so redefining or looking at the roles and responsibilities and who's doing what can make a much more kind of lean organization that also is providing better value to stakeholders, not just customers. So I'm interested in that part, of looking at how to better allocate resources to produce a better result. Because I also think that with this very one-dimensional approach, go get new customers, it's missing all these other buckets of opportunities through the community, through partnerships, et cetera, et cetera. So
they are actually not utilizing what they are receiving. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but what I keep on hearing here, you are marketing, you are positioned as a marketing agency, and you get clients from this angle, like a marketing agency.
We did.
We did. Okay, let's still put it, you did, because the company still exists. You're in transition, period. But at this point, this is what you're doing. But what I feel here, and I think that's actually the core of your problem, is not what you're doing or how you're doing it, but I feel you just need to take a stand and propose something different. And what you're actually doing, and what I wrote here, even if you're talking about marketing, actually, I'm hearing more about business. You are actually helping them structure their business and organize their business. And marketing, it's a part of that, and it's integrated and needs to go with it. But you keep on talking about processes, that marketing has a lot of processes. However, those need to be integrated in the overall management and running of the business. So I feel you're kind of cutting yourself short by saying you're doing marketing, because what you're doing is you're doing business strategy here.
I love that you said that, and I probably should have pointed that out, which I am now realizing I skipped over. But that transition happened a few years back when as I was working with a number of clients and beginning to realize the commonalities. I did the Six Sigma training, etc., and then began to look at process, and then realizing the correlations of things. It's like simple things. I remember we had one client in financial services, and I realized, like, it started to happen. I dropped my lucky pen. That I liked the founder, but I remember realizing that, wow, I wouldn't even refer somebody to work with them, because if somebody I referred called up, I know that the woman who answers the phone can be nasty. And it's like, okay, so now then I walked that backwards and realized, so we're working on doing all these things to get the phone to ring, but yet there's a business decision that has been made to have this person. So it's an improper allocation of resources. She has great skills, but shouldn't be answering the phone. So that was an example. I had another client say, oh, we're not getting good enough leads. And I'm like, let's look at it. And I was able to dig through, spreadsheet heaven and discover that they actually had a sales process issue. They're just unorganized, and their way that they were going about it was haphazard. So we're able to address some of those pieces. So you're right. So that's when it shifted from management consulting, and I had another experience with another client. So my role kind of evolved. So part of me felt like, as an attempt to kind of understand or, console the clients that may have felt like a bait and switch situation, because they hired me originally for this specific idea they had about marketing related stuff, or something they understood to be marketing. But as I worked with them and began to realize, yeah, they've got a million holes in their bucket. To me, it's like, if I'm going to do my job, we need to patch some of the holes in your bucket. So I began doing more management consulting. But for some clients, it was like hard for them to understand that, because frankly, and this is another challenge but opportunity that I love and hate, or love to hate, I don't know, is a lot of business owners, at least that I have worked with, that are more established and have had a track record of success. They have gotten to that point and are now, they're not accustomed to having people challenge them directly or tell them that what they did was, foolish, or, punch them in the mouth kind of a thing. That's what I like to do. I'm comfortable with that. But not in a, well, a little bit of a
Aggressive
pain
way.
in the ass way. But yeah, not
You do
just
need to
being
be a pain
direct.
in the ass on this one,
Yeah,
to be
it
honest.
is. It's but letting them know, and this goes back to the idea of working with them over a period of time so that they would know me, and understand where I'm coming from and that I care and the reason I'm saying things. And I'm very direct and very honest, and I'm the first one to tell them if I made a mistake or I missed something or whatever. But in any case, I think, yeah, that part is there. So there can be some resistance to, or just lack of appetite, or willingness to adjust some of those things. But in any case, to go back to, I think what your kind of point was, you're right. I haven't been like a marketing agency in, I don't know, many years. I definitely identify more with management consulting. Yeah, I definitely identify more with that. Yeah,
And
with marketing pieces built in, but yeah.
Of course, because marketing is part of this. You can't take it out. It's a very
Yeah.
important part. And looking at my notes, what you just shared, also with the sustainable business, with the B Corp consultancy, all of these are actually not really marketing. Some
Right.
companies use them as marketing, and honestly, I hate that, because that means
I know.
they are not based in your values and your mission and purpose of the company. And for me, that will be a very big red flag. And my question is, do you want to work with those companies, or do you want to take them on board, educate them, and move them towards, let's say, the right path?
Yeah.
So everything that you're telling me, and since I know you, we know each other for 1 year now.
Yeah.
Oh, we need to celebrate that.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Apologies. But maybe what you need to do, and this keeps on coming, is not only because of this conversation, it's because of all the conversation we kept on having. Maybe it's scary, because being a marketing agency was a part of your life for over 10 years, a decade. It's so long. But maybe it's time to say thank you and goodbye to it. Take what you like and you want to do, find partners to implement, or keep the partners to implement, but actually switch a little bit and just do what brings you joy. Because what I realized, of course, maybe this is also the confusion that you are having, because I know you're great at what you're doing, but you do struggle at this point, like with your identity as a business person and as a company, US versus Europe, marketing versus processes, and big corps and sustainability. So this is why I asked you. What I usually do with my clients, we take post-its or pieces of paper and start working what actually makes you happy. What do you really want to create? What brings you joy? What gives you creativity when you think about it? And that can be a business strategy, a process. It doesn't really matter. But once that you define that, you will identify the services you want to do. And then you will realize, actually, I'm not a marketing agency, but I'm more as a management consulting.
But I feel like do companies hire for that? But then of course, I mean, look at the Deloittes and the KPM. I mean, yeah, they do. But maybe it's also in order to fully step into management consulting, maybe it's also really the medium-sized to larger enterprises that it's relevant for.
There's the second part.
Yeah, go ahead.
So
Sorry.
the first part is, what do you really want to do? Because if you're doing something that it doesn't bring you joy, like how you started, the client that you said goodbye.
Yeah.
Excuse me. That you felt scared, that is perfectly normal, but then you felt relief. So that tells me that it's time for you to have a switch. So it's the same, like identify what you want to do, and then we look at the audience. Because probably half of the companies you worked could still be your client, but half of them not. And then it's time to look at others. And Deloitte is working with corporates.
Yeah.
What companies do you want to work with? You already mentioned the big corp. That's actually a very targeted segment. And there you have from SMEs to big companies as well. So you just need to identify what is your niche in that particular category. And it's scary at the beginning, of course, because you're switching everything.
It keeps coming back to, and maybe I just have to, find a new way to think about it, because I immediately think, but companies want to hire. Yeah, I know. It's like, but companies, I have this like, maybe preconceived notion, or maybe it's just, like I said, bias from all the years of talking with businesses, but it's like, at least, the idea, I'll hire you. Can you help us get more business? But how many, it's like, the business side of the human behavior of like, how many people really focus on prevention, right? So it's like, as opposed to just fix something when it's broken kind of idea. And that's part of it. So I feel like, I know what the opportunity is. I know it's so much easier to get clients under the auspice of marketing. It's like, oh yes, help with your,
I actually disagree with
get you
here.
clients. But how many companies are out there like, can you help us be better with what we have? Can you help us improve our deliverables? Can you help us to reduce our waste? And if you do those things, you can be profitable. Please do.
They will come and say, I want more clients. And you say, perfect, you want more clients. In order to get more clients, we need to see what you're doing to get these clients. You're going to start with the marketing element, but you're going to go to the business element, and you're going to go to the human element and to the processes elements, because always is like that. And I have that with my clients, some of my clients, and then I start recommending them, you need actually here you have a leadership issue, go and work with this person. So once that you start working, you get to the bottom of it. And it happens to me and to others. And then you start sending them to where they need to be. So you don't need to change the entry point, because if you realize this is what works for you and you feel comfortable, you can start with this one and you can say, I can help you bring more clients. And how will I do that? We start looking at the marketing process, at the sales process, and then you get to the core of it and you solve it. But don't limit yourself only to the marketing, because I think you're doing yourself a disadvantage by doing that. You're offering much more. So you can still use it as a starting point, but it's not the only thing that you're offering.
What do you think about the US versus European market? And then second to that, about the kind of niche situation, either like a niche service or industry. So I'm curious about both of those. What you think?
What's on my list actually to address the next one, the US versus Europe. It depends on you. It depends what do you want, and you can have both or you can have one. So you can actually focus on the US market. However, the time difference can be a pain in the ass.
I know.
That's something you need to consider. It may be, excuse me, it may be easier for you to get an American client because of your network. So you can start with that and then use that to get clients here in Europe. Or what you can do, actually target US companies that want to enter the European market, or the other way around,
Mm-hmm.
because you have a
Mm-hmm.
foot in both of them. So probably actually your European market, European companies that want to enter the American market will be even better for you because you really
Mm-hmm.
understand the American market, and that's a different
Yeah.
market.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in that case, you are here, you're working your normal hours, and you are actually offering such a valuable know-how about the US market. And that makes you
Mm-hmm.
different from other companies that are here, because you also need to
Mm-hmm.
consider a little bit how do you want to be positioned and who is here doing,
Yeah.
who's your competitor, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I will always try to find that what makes you unique and how can you help them. And considering
Yeah.
the huge network that you have in US, that could very well work in your advantage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. Um, yeah, okay. That's interesting.
And one doesn't eliminate the other. So actually try to find what I would do. I would probably very easy. You're gonna get an American client, get a Europe. You already have European clients, but also try to see an American client wanting one that wants to enter the European market, and European company interested in extending to the US market, and see which one
mhm,
actually works better for you. Do you like A,
yeah,
B, C, D test here? And then you
yeah,
can actually serve all of them depending on the team that you want to launch and what what you want to do.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I do need to go back to yeah, how I originally, yeah, my original kind of approach of like I guess we call prospecting.
Yeah,
Um yeah,
that's
and the way
exactly
I
that.
approach that.
Prospecting.
Yeah, it was like, yeah, conversations. Because funny enough, like when I was growing my yeah 1.0, I literally, it sounds a bit maybe yeah like a little bit like an asshole, but at the same time it was like honest and genuine, and it seemed to resonate with people. They got it. Like I did not care if they hired me, and I still feel that way now because I don't want to, like, I only want to work with, like I said, like a healthy environment where there's collaboration, and it's I don't want to get a, you know, to get a piece of business in which I'm set up to be the scapegoat, or like just a short-term thing. Like it's just not, I'd rather not. So I am far more interested in, yeah, like having those conversations to see what's going on. Is there something that I can do? And if I can't, like I'm gonna tell them, yeah, this is,
Yeah.
there's nothing I can help you with here. Or like the way I approached it was like that always. So I just probably need to start engaging in those conversations. It feels like, oh, obviously. But at the same time, I haven't done a lot of those because I've had the same clients, because I built this retainer model, and just yeah, we've continued to work on things and over the years. So I didn't have to. I haven't, you know, I didn't onboard a new client since in the US market since 2016. It's like a
Maybe
little
that's
bit
also
crazy.
something that you need, because we do tend to like, why do I have so many projects in so many industries? Because otherwise I'm going to get bored. And if you get bored,
Yeah,
then you're not going to deliver the same quality, because you're going to
yeah,
do it
yeah,
like it's it's like waking up and brushing your teeth and walking your dog
yeah,
and eating breakfast.
yeah,
It's a routine. You just do it
yeah,
automatically.
yeah,
And then your brain is not challenged anymore. And I have a feeling you're in that position actually, but also you improved and you added knowledge. So now you're in
yeah,
that position where you need to sit down and say, what do I want to do? And my
yeah,
challenge to you is sit down and see what did you really enjoy in your 1.0
yeah,
version of your company, and take that on
yeah,
board and see what else did you brought and you like and you want to do. And of course there will be things in managing a business that we have to do and we don't enjoy, and I think
yeah,
we spoke about this in
yeah,
all our episodes a little bit,
yeah, yeah,
but and that have to be, but try to make sure you have at least 70% of the things that really bring you joy, like building a team.
yeah,
What type of team? You can still have your marketing services and you see the extent, and you also need to consider you have the team mostly based in US. The prices are different, the style is different, the approach is different in US to Europe.
mm-hmm,
It's more sell oriented, more aggressive, where here is slightly different. And then you have the big corps that are focusing on sustainability, ethical business. It's slightly different, value and
Yeah.
purpose driven. So the message is different. You're not going to go ahead with scarcity, for example,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
fear
Yeah.
of missing out that is very predominant in the American market.
I
So
know, that's the thing. Yeah, that's
so you
completely
do,
it.
and you do need to define that. Doesn't mean you're not going to find clients in the US market because they know that, but even more, an American company that is very sales oriented and has this mentality will need you to be able to come here in Europe, because that message to a specific point it will resonate, but a very small one, and they will be
Mm,
ignored at the specific
mm,
point because the values are different and the way of
mm-hmm.
working is different. The pace of running a business and conducting business
Yeah.
is different
Yep.
here in Europe.
Yep. Yep.
So they will need you, and you have a lot of qualities and a lot of advantages. But what you need to do before going and presenting to everyone is you need to sit down and write what you actually want to do and clarify that message. Because if you're confused, what you're projecting and
Yeah.
communicating will not be received as you want, because you're not
Yeah,
going to
for
have that
sure. It's
red
scattered.
thread.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
No, I need to do that. That's good.
in terms of audience, what you mentioned, I'm never afraid of defining the audience. I think that will be the easiest thing once that you have clarity. And there are
Yeah.
so many businesses, and you need to look a little bit like, okay, what's the business numbers you want to make? Uh,
Mm.
how much do your services cost? What's the audience? How much they can afford? How many clients can I actually
Yeah. Yeah.
onboard monthly?
Yeah.
So you do
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
do a little bit of the financial planning at that point,
Yeah.
and then you're gonna find your audience.
I
So
have a bunch of that. I do have some of this worked out. I've had a pro forma. I do have a roster. I know the type of team I want to build, all of these things. It's just been like, yeah, this, like you said, the full transition. It's yeah, this more so management consulting. And then like I was saying about does that, being full in on kind of management consulting side, does that because I always liked working with small businesses because right 90% of the businesses in the world are small businesses, and
mhm,
they're by nature don't have the same financial resources to be able to, yeah, perhaps attract and retain top talent and all these other things. So I feel like small businesses are in the best position to benefit from this type of mentality. I mean, on the other hand, a lot of
exactly.
times they have limited budgets, limited resources, limited, um, yeah, leadership,
Mm,
or just an appetite. And I think that's where I'm at now, is like, in a way, I don't necessarily, I guess I don't care anymore if it's a small business, medium, or a larger enterprise. What I care about is working with organizations that actually want to be better, actually want to be better,
So
not just get me some leads. It's like,
in
I'm
that
so, I
case,
can't, it's sickening to me now. I'm over that. Yeah.
in that case, maybe your challenge is when you're working on your audience, don't think about the classical size of the
Yeah.
company, return of the investment, things like turnover, things like that.
Yeah.
Switch to values and how they work and how they are
Yeah.
positioned, and that will define the market. And then you're going to see, okay, there's the amount they are earning and this is how much they will be willing or able to invest in such a consultancy service.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, you still can have the, like in terms of pricing, you can still have the retainer, or you can have a fixed cost and then the retainer. I do that with some clients. um, it it doesn't really matter, to be honest. I think
Yeah. Yeah.
at this
Yeah.
point is that, and I really understand you, because it's that point when you're switching and it's scary because you're letting go to something that you know is working and pays the the bills,
Yeah.
but
Right.
makes you unhappy. So you do
Yeah.
need to change it because it will not work on long term.
Yeah. It's so ironic because when I first started, like I remember, yeah, like I didn't even know I was starting in my original, like income goals. It was like oh, imagine like, let me get a client for 500. Let me get a client for 1,500. Actually, it was $60 and then $600 and then $60,000. Like I learned how to scale that quickly, but I also didn't have, the overhead and like have a child and all of the things. And now it's just, I think obviously there's some angst that goes into changing a career or changing a business focus and all of that. But now for me, the added kind of weight of having, another mouth to feed kind of a thing, as well as doing it in a different country, in a different continent and culture and the whole thing, where I don't have a majority like of contacts and I don't yet speak the language enough at a business level. Like all it feels like, oh my gosh, is this a bad move? But I also can't like I this recent client or any even if they paid me seven figures, I just couldn't do it because it's just not me anymore. I need to so I know that I need to make this change, but it's like, wow, it's a
It's a
little
leap
bit
of faith.
overwhelming.
It
Yeah,
is.
it sure
It
is.
is.
It is.
What always helped me is write down and just get clarity on what you want before thinking about payments, clients. It's
Yeah.
about you. And this is how I actually created the spin methodology. Because if you're not really sure what you want, you'll not be able to build. And with your knowledge and experience of creating everything, will be so easy. But until you
Mm,
don't take ownership, you don't get clarity and take ownership of what you want, is very hard.
yeah.
It's actually impossible because then you'll kind of go round and round and round, and you
Yeah.
can't really properly create from there because you'll
Yeah.
be, we have a saying in Romanian, um, you are in between two things. You have 2 feet in two buckets basically,
Yeah.
so you
Yep.
can't really move
Yep.
forward.
Yep.
So you
Yep.
just need
Yeah. It's
to
interesting.
just either you're a marketing agency and you really believe in it and you move forward and everything like I see you just saying no.
Yeah.
So you just
I'm
need
definitely not.
to
Yep.
sit down and take what you really enjoy from that part and move it to the other one and
Yep.
see who is the new Jillian.
Yep. Yep.
And that's the beauty when you move to a new country, new continent, new culture, you can reinvent
I know.
what you're
I
doing.
know. No, it's also like I do have some folks on my team that I really like. I have one guy who's been with me for 9 years. Yeah, he has the longest tenure currently, and I really like him, and I would love to be able to keep him on board, but I've got to figure out how to make these pieces work. Anyway, but
You
yeah.
can
So if
be very
anybody's,
creative, so you can still
yeah.
keep that person or just find him jobs
Mm-hmm.
because you don't need to give up everything that you did. So one doesn't
Yeah.
eliminate the other. You can
Yeah.
build what you want and still maintain, like, what do I, this is why I said the first thing you need to do is what do I want to keep for my
Yeah.
own business?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you see what do I want to add to that new business? And then we can
Hmm.
have another sit down once that you have
Yep.
that clarity and see how can we group them. And the
Hmm.
rest are details like how do I charge, what
Yep.
services, or
Yep.
how do I build my marketing funnel? Do I do an audit
Mm-hmm.
so I qualify them, or maybe I do a free
Mm-hmm.
workshop actually and see
Mm-hmm.
who
Mm-hmm.
is coming. There are so many agencies doing so many things that I could introduce you to as well,
Yep.
from where you can get prospects. The B Corp is a big one, and actually the B Corp. This
Yep.
why I was like, why are you focusing on marketing when what you're doing is business, like
Yeah, I'm not
management
focusing on,
consultancy?
yeah,
But
it's
this is how
not.
you're
It's
positioned.
yeah, it's just because that's the language of business in the US market. It's like, oh, help me grow my company. Oh, let's get a marketing. It's like everybody has a line item for that.
So
But
everyone
is
wants
there a
to
line
grow the
item?
business. I agree
Yeah,
with that, but there's several ways to do that. And
yeah,
this
yeah.
is actually what you need to do is educate yourself and educate others. So I will help you grow your business by doing this. And
Yeah, in a
for the
different way.
market,
Yeah.
exactly for the marketing part, you have so many friends and collaborators. You can bring them and you get your
Mm-hmm.
commission. So you're still earning money of that because you need to
Yep.
be realistic about, as you said, the small businesses, probably they will not be able to pay seven
Right.
figures, six.
Right.
But you don't want to be in the Lloyd or the big part, right? You need to be a little bit
Mm.
beneath that one. So you need to identify where are you in the market. I never want to work with the big companies, honestly, because then I will have to fight the policies and the
Yeah,
political side, and I don't
yeah,
want that. So I'm
right.
intentionally positioning my company lower than that.
Yep,
And you kind
yep.
of did yours as well. So I'm a little bit surprised now that you're focusing on that because the small ones actually need you more than the big ones.
They do, they do. I just yeah, it's like the story about the previous biggest client that I also finished with. I wrapped them up and sent them on their way. I told them finally that they can't outsource the leadership and management of their own business. Like
Yeah.
that was the role that I was playing, and it was not sustainable, and it was not the best for them. And so I told them that they, instead of paying me, that I would help them find and hire and onboard an actual business manager. So I helped oversee that process and the transition, and they did that.
So maybe that's
So
actually you should be there interim for like you already said you need a specific amount of time to be able to transform the business. So you can be with your team there for 6 months, 1 year, however,
yep,
I don't know the period you
yep,
need. And then you start building their team. And that actually
yep.
will be cheaper for them in long term.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we ended up doing all the things, because of understanding. It's like, yeah, you can go hire somebody to do your social media, but that's going to be a lot. So that's why we did all the things and in a retainer, because then we could handle all the different pieces. If
Hmm.
you hire all them separately, it's going to blow the budget. And so small
Exactly.
business is not going to be able to do that. So that's why my heart is with small business, smaller-ish businesses. But I've got to, yeah. So I don't know. I've got to refigure that and see what's the market here and whatnot to be able to actually do the work where we can, have proper collaboration and, like I said, build things, test things, explore, look at the data, and really wanting to work with companies that have an interest and want to look under the hood of their business and see what is actually working. And yeah. Anyway, so I could belabor the point, but anyway, that's the gist of where I'm at mentally, as I'm moving forward into the 2.0 version. So a lot of these pieces I'm working on. I've got ideas on my whiteboard here. I'm having conversations. Some pieces I'm exploring. Like I said, I have a pro forma I've been working on. Anyway, so it's just, I think most of it is just a mental thing of like, wow, I'm actually doing this now, and it's like scary, but oh well, here
It's
we
scary
go.
but beautiful. It's
Yeah.
so normal.
But it's also hard because I had a lot of success in the 1.0 without really, I don't want to say without trying, but yeah,
Was
just
very organic.
organically. So now it feels like this pressure, like I don't know if I can do that again. Like
Of course
how
you
I was
can do
able to
it.
scale so fast, it feels like, oh my God, now I'm like very deliberate about it and all of these things. Before I was just like, ooh, I guess this is what we're doing. And I would just get another lead. And it's like I went from, yeah, like a $600 contract to a $100,000 contract in a couple of months. It was just like, oh yeah, I can do this, and did. And now I'm like, oh geez, really? I was like, feels like another lifetime ago. So
Just get the same attitude and you'll be able to do it.
mm,
I think
mm,
what changed now is your family situation because yes, you have a
yes,
kid. So the pressure is there and it
yeah,
changes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But you have
So anyway,
everything
but
that you need. And my advice, just sit down and
yeah.
don't think about the clients, don't think about the money. Just sit down and see what do you really want to do and build on
Mm,
that.
mm. So stay tuned. And if anybody like has hung on all the way till now, God bless you. I owe you a coffee at least. So reach out and I'll send you a free coffee wherever you are. Because yeah, this is like a long chat listening to me go in a million different directions, but free coffee for listening. Um, anyway, I really appreciate you also listening and just being candid and sharing your ideas and suggestions. So thanks, Veronica.
My pleasure. And thank you for sharing. I hope I gave you at least the direction. And
Yes, no, I
I think
appreciate it.
we do need to follow up on this. It was a long episode, definitely. Like,
Yeah, enough out of me. Enough out of me. Psh, we're done.
so in that case,
Yeah.
thank you all for listening. Episode 13, the lucky number. So let's stay tuned and see where Jillian we're gonna go next. I'm pretty sure she'll be fine, and I have some ideas that we're gonna share over dinner this week, actually.
Looking forward to that. That'd be great.
So
All right,
thank you
super.
all for listening, and see you next week.
Ciao.
Ciao.